feel like sometimes life is really mental.
Dude, that's actually a really good name for a podcast.
Whenever I see somebody that piques that twinge of jealousy, I'm just gonna choose to be so supportive of them, be their biggest fan, treat them the way that I would hope that they're looking at me.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Really Mental. We want you to know no matter who you are, you're not alone. Today we have an amazing guest, Kira Kosarin, and we're going to be talking about jealousy and how she's gotten through her jealous times and her journey with her career and her relationships and all those types of things. So if you're excited for this episode, please share it with a friend and follow us at Really Mental Podcast on socials and rate this 5 stars. I wanted to get into the episode pretty quickly, but I wanted to ask you first, Will, has there been a time where you've dealt with jealousy and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I would say that there's definitely been points in my career where I've wanted, I guess, things that maybe other artists were having in terms of success. I'd say through social media, I also really struggled with jealousy when I would scroll because I'd see that people were living these lives that seemed perfect and I knew I wasn't, living that. So that is definitely a time that comes up when I think of jealousy. And I feel as though what is important, with that feeling is just recognizing it and being aware of it when it comes up. I think for me, it can make me feel anxious or ashamed. So I try to ask more questions when I feel that feeling. Why am I feeling jealous? What do I feel like is missing? What can I do to, I guess, help myself feel better and closer to where I want to be? I really am excited to hear what Kira says about this topic and, jealousy overall and her journey. So let's welcome Kira to the show. Can you tell us how you're feeling at the moment? How's your mental health?
Just getting right into it. Shit, to be honest. No, I'm playing. Weirdly, not the best it's ever been, and for no really good reason, which is the kind of thing that I normally wouldn't actually say in an interview, but I feel since we're talking about that, it's feels like the right place to be honest about it. Sometimes life is great, and your brain's just but what if it's not, though? What if everything is terrible and bad? We're living, trying to remember the good stuff and do all the things that make brain make happy.
Is there a reason why brain isn't happy right now?
Nah, it just does that sometimes. It just every once in a while everything's bad, right? And everything that is good right now is gonna go wrong and you're terrible and nothing's ever gonna be good again and your friends will actually hate you. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. And then it just goes away. I don't know. I feel like we all go through that.
I totally feel that on so many levels. Oh, I think that my mental health has been getting better the last couple of days. And I actually fixed 2 things, which was my sleep and I've been back to working out because I've been sick for probably a week and my body was just, I couldn't. And I really actually noticed it, especially with those 2 things. I was staying up later to just do work and I was staying up till 1 and I love the thought of that, right? Getting extra work and it feels good. But the next day, just mentally, just feel heavier on all fronts. And
this is the most important thing, man. I feel like we all try to pretend it's not because it's such a pain to have to waste 9 hours a night of your life unconscious. It really is the big thing.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Harrison?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I've had a rough last few months, but I think now I'm in the best place I have been in the last few months. I think I've changed a lot of things and cut certain people out of my life and also just, working out a lot and just going to the gym. That made a massive difference. I was like, fuck yeah. And I just think having shifting my mindset and stuff has been really important. Getting back into everything now. So I'm doing good. I'm doing the best I have in the last few months.
I'll tell you the other reason. I just realized that my brain isn't as happy as it was. It's that I took a break from my phone a month ago and I dopamine detoxed and it was fabulous. And then in the last week, it slowly creeped back in. And that's why. And in fact, I had to reinstate the rule for myself the last few days that no social media in bed in the morning when I wake up. I have to get up, get ready, and get out of the house before I'm allowed to check my phone. Because if I look at my social media first thing in the morning, I'm anxious all day.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a huge thing. I think taking that time to get outside and get that sunlight, that has tons of scientific benefits that I've been learning about. Also, though, just the concept of it, I think, is easy to understand. With so much going on social media and seeing all that stuff, it's naturally just going to make your brain feel so overwhelmed. And that's like not the best place to start your day from. And I was watching like a reel, which is so funny
Wait,
because
you just did the thing. You were about to say I was reading an article and it was a TikTok, right?
exactly.
No, I'll just say it's a TikTok. That's so much easier.
No, it was a reel for me. Shout out Instagram. Congrats for adding that and coming to the game. But I was watching it and they were saying like it puts your mind in a state of chaos. And sometimes I trick myself into thinking it's okay because I'll check like work things like emails and stuff. But that just gets me ticking even more because I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do and stuff. I totally feel you on that. And I had a question for you from that. I was like, how do you make time for yourself when a lot of your career comes from social media? Was that detox really difficult?
Yeah. Drawing that boundary is super hard. I mean, I feel like whether your job is on social media or not, just the way that social media is built, like it's meant to trap us in that fake dopamine spiral where you start to need more and more stimulation to not feel understimulated. You start to need more and more input in your brain, more and more refreshing and swiping. It's a lottery system. It's built to give you that little hit every time you get an interaction or whatever. I've always found that taking breaks from it is really helpful. But like you say, that extra complication of having to be on social media for work makes it really tricky because it's not as simple as being like, I need to take a break. That would be good for me. There's also that voice being like, I need to be successful in my job and career. And 90% of that, it feels like, is making content and being online and seeing what the trends are. Yeah.
Like the content thing and having it for work and stuff. I don't know if it affects me or not. I don't have any rules when it comes to me personally with my phone. That probably shows with my screen time. But I find that the big key things for me and my mindset is more, am I going to the gym every morning? And also just reminding myself like how I want to live my life. For example, it's a really weird way of saying it. And it's not, I'm still trying to work it out in my brain, but it works really well. I'm going to like, anything that comes my way in life, like I'm going to manage that and I'm going to deal with it in a sense. That's like the mindset of bring it on, if that makes sense. Like any challenge is looked upon as like that's not scary. And I find that's really helpful as well whenever you're going through anything, is just like, come on, bring on more. Like you can handle as much as you actually mentally think.
And I can do hard things mentality.
Yeah, and I think that's really helped, honestly, because anything that comes my way now, it's come on, can do more than. It can always be harder. Like, why isn't it harder? You know what I mean? I don't know. And that's definitely helped in getting things done where you might not want to do something, but you're like, no, I'm going to do it right now. I'm doing it because I don't want to do it.
Yeah, with the gym, I saw a TikTok of this girl saying that she does something that I also do, and it was the first time I've seen someone else say it, which was that she was saying how if she plans to go to the gym and doesn't want to, she has a rule for herself that she can't decide that she doesn't want to do it until she's already there. She has to at least get ready and go. And I do the same thing because I, like, without fail, when I go to the gym for an hour, I come back and I am a different person. I feel a million times more able to take on the world and confident and like better about myself. But there are those times where I just don't want to go. And 99.9% of the time, if I get there and I do 5 minutes, once I've done 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, this is great. And I want to go for 3 more hours. It's just the getting there that's the hard part. So I love that.
So true. Yeah, I feel like our mental headspace is so related to where we are, like location wise. And I even think from a music sense, when I'm making music a bunch, I can sometimes feel so like claustrophobic almost just staying in that same space. And like going out and going for a walk, it like completely changes the way you view things. And it's such an easy thing to do that I almost wish I had learned it when I was younger, when I was trying to figure out, oh, is it this thing that's going to solve everything? It can be as simple as that. And I love that we're talking about this because I have been thinking a lot recently about work-life balance. And when it comes to what does a productive day look like and what does actually a balanced day look like where I'm like taking care of other tasks? Because sometimes it feels if I'm going to the groceries, it's not necessarily productive. I could be working. And that's toxic.
I promise I don't mean to sound pedantic when I say this or condescending, but you literally sound like me 3 years ago. Like I was such a workaholic that I literally because I grew up working full time. And so I was like, what do people do when they're not working? And it literally wasn't until I was in my like early 20s that I started to learn how to get my car washed, go to the bank, do the laundry, do the groceries, grocery shop, make dinner, clean the kitchen, like just like human tasks. And now I feel like I get so much joy out of those days where all I have to do is be a person.
It's all just purposeful, right? So it's the way that I think of it is, what's the purpose to the task that you're doing, right? And that will align with whatever you're doing. And I think that's really helped in like this work-life balance type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like where I'm at now is I do a lot of stuff outside of work. Like I work, but I do a lot of stuff outside of it. And I will go see my friends or go shopping and do that. Like I won't even think about work. And I think that's because there's a purpose to it. Like the purpose to grocery shop is so I can get food, so I can eat, so then I can go and perform better at work. The purpose of seeing my friends is to socialize and to take that second to relax. So then when I do go back into work again as well, I'm more refreshed and I can do it more effectively. So all of those things, if you want to relate back to work, because if you're able to work more effectively with your time, then you're able to get more done in that span of time. And the only way to do that is by those other things, because they refill your cup that's getting depleted from work.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like a Sims with all the little bars. And if one of them gets too low, then I can't do anything. And one of those bars is like solo time. One of them, like you said, is like time with friends. One of them is like making your space around you feel good. One of them is indulgence, late night, having fun. One of them is quiet and self-care, workouts, resting. There's 30 different things to try to be balancing at any given moment. You can't ever have them all perfectly balanced. But if one of them gets too low, you can't make good music if you like haven't seen another person. Maybe you can if you're, I don't know, Frank Ocean or something. But I can't make good music if I haven't seen anybody. You're like socialized, and you need those things, like you said, to make you so that you can then show up and perform at your job.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that bar analogy because I think of that even with, especially with the alone time thing, because I've noticed that I am more extroverted, and if I get alone time, I'll try and fill it up with, oh yeah, let's hang out there, and then suddenly there's literally no time for me in like my schedule.
That's so interesting. I feel like not only do I need alone time, but there's like 3 different kinds of alone time that I need. And I have to get all of them within any given 10-day period, which is funny because like I live with somebody, have for 3 years in a 1-bedroom apartment, but we are both like this. And it took us a while, but we got really good at noticing the signs, both in ourselves and in each other, of needing solo time. Because sometimes you don't even realize it. Like for me, it's that I'll get like twitchy or reactive to physical touch, or reactive or like quickly annoyed at things. And I'll be like, God, why am I in such a bad mood? And it'll be like, oh, because I haven't been alone for 10 days. And then I need alone time where I'm doing absolutely nothing, like just to be unobserved. And then I need alone time where I can be like creative, where I can sing as loud as I want, play piano badly, watch stupid TV shows that I don't need anyone else to know are things that I watch. And I need both of them. Usually I have to have the chill, do absolutely nothing, be like a gross piece of trash on the couch one for 6 hours before I can get into the inspired doing DIY projects.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I learned that from living with my girlfriend for a couple months is like how important that alone time is. And I noticed that too with the mood thing. Yeah, like that, it really does play out for me, at least, when I don't have like my own time and own space in some way. And I feel bad. I used to feel bad in the sense of, oh, like it's not like I don't like you. But now I feel more strongly in being like, hey, like I need this time. Just generally with people, like I need my own space. I think what we're speaking about too a little bit is like figuring out the person you want to be and like the path you want to walk, which is what we're talking about today. I want to ask you, Kira, when did you embrace this unique life and career that you're in now?
It's an interesting question. I feel like a life builds up over a combination of so many seemingly small choices. So I don't know that I can necessarily pick a moment. I think that my life has been a long string of decisions, and they haven't all been in one direction, weirdly. Like I've branched out from kind of one version of a career path to another, and backtracked and stepped back and gone over here and tried this and realized it was maybe not for me in that moment, but would be later, so many times. I had a particularly weird like adolescence journey because I played a character on a TV show from ages 14 to 20. And I feel like those are really years where you're like supposed to be figuring out who you are and how you want to be perceived. but I was doing that under a set of circumstances where how I was being perceived was not under my control. And I think a lot of that development was delayed and then all happened really quickly in these major chunks over the next 5 years or whatever, where I really had an accelerated timeline of having to figure out A, how I wanted to be seen, but B, to figure out how to be who I am and not care how I'm seen. Because that's the boss level, I think.
When you say the boss level, do you think you've hit that?
I think that I have boss levels honestly, almost every year or so. I find that like my personal development is weirdly very seasonal. And every year I forget until I go back and I look at what happened each of the years prior. There are periods of my life where I am nesting, and there are periods of my life where I am like career-driven, go-getter, planner, on my shit with my work stuff. There are periods of my life where I'm like really on my health and fitness grind. There are periods of my life where I go, oh my God, what am I doing? I have this intense cognitive dissonance because something in my daily life doesn't align with what I actually want for myself. And it tends to happen at the same time every year. And it tends to happen around spring, summer, where things get really dicey and really hard for a few months. And I go, what is this leading me towards? Like, this is the boss level. How am I gonna come out the other side? And then I always do, and I get to rack up all the XP that came from getting through that experience. And then I usually get to enjoy it for about a week before the next bit starts.
I know how hard that can be to actually go through. And I know in the moment, it doesn't always feel like it's going to end. In those moments, how do you keep perspective, if at all?
I mean, it's really hard when things are bad to remember that it's temporary. It's really hard when things are bad in your life to remember that they're temporary. It's almost impossible when things are bad with your mental health, because that's part of it, is that your brain is really good at tricking itself into thinking that it will always feel this way. We have this weird sense of, if this is how I feel right now, this must be how I've always felt and how I will always feel, especially if you have any sort of mental illness that you struggle with. I think it's just a matter of remembering all of the times in the past that you thought it wouldn't end and then it did. It's like when you're a kid and you're afraid of the dark because you think that if you walk through a dark hallway, a monster will hop out. But you walk through the dark enough times when that doesn't happen that you start to go, okay, if it hasn't happened by now, it's not going to. I feel like it's like that. You go through, hopefully, enough times where it feels like things will never get better, and then they do, that at least I'm hoping one can get to a point where you go, okay, this feels like it's never going to end, but it felt like that last time, and then it did.
I think also looking at it in a way that's not resisting. I feel like a lot of us, when we're going through a hard time, and we're going through, at least for me personally, I'll resist that hard time. Does that make sense? I'll resist and be like, I can't be feeling this. This is wrong. Instead, like now I've learned just to be like, bring it on. This is normal. Like, this is fine. I know this. I've dealt with this shit before. Let's go through it again. Let's just do it. And I think that really helps, at least me, because it's just, I'm going to go through it regardless. But if I have the mindset of not resisting it, then I'll actually just go through it. But I wanted to ask, throughout your journey in work, and you've had a really long journey that's had a lot of changes, how have you maintained your sense of self and not allowed yourself to get caught up in everything?
That's a great question. I definitely feel like what we were talking about before, like making time for real life, has been a really big part of it. I think trying to like compartmentalize a little bit and remember that there can and should be things that are just for me. I feel like it's interesting. My social media persona as an artist, as an actor, as a digital creator, like it feels very open. It feels like I share absolutely everything in my life. And to an extent, I do share a lot. I'm pretty comfortable sharing most of my life on the internet. But there is a lot that I haven't shared that is just for me, which people don't probably know. But I feel like that's really integral to me being able to like be a real person in the real world and not just in cyberspace. And like you said, things like going to the gym, things that I haven't monetized or turned into careers. Yo, hobby? Bro, hobbies are underrated. I hit a point, it was one of my boss levels like a year ago or 2 years ago, where I was like, I don't have a single hobby that I haven't turned into my job and sucked all of the joy out of. This is a big thing with musicians, right? Because when we're kids, that's our fun. That's our escape from the world. And then it becomes the source of all of our fucking stress.
I feel this frustration for me as well, in the sense of like, whenever, even when I'm talking with a friend or something, whatever the idea is, I'm always trying to monetize it, even if it's for them. I'm like, oh, and you could do this, and this is how you could scale it.
You know what's funny? I did it with
big thing.
video games last year. I was like, oh, I'm really enjoying playing video games. I should
gonna
stream
Twitch
on
stream?
Twitch 3 times a
Yeah.
week and make some money from it. And granted, it was fun for a minute. It gave me a chance to build a community from scratch, which I haven't done in a long time. And there were parts of it that were fulfilling, but eventually I was like, oh God, I have to like play video games. I just want to, and I was like, whoa. That's not a sentence that should ever be said. I really took something that I was getting personal joy out of and turned it into an obligation. So I've really tried to fill my days a little bit with things that are just for me, which has been very fulfilling.
I want to ask you had a few interesting things to talk about with jealousy. What does jealousy mean to you, Kira?
I'm at a really interesting pivotal change in my life around jealousy as a concept. This is a cool conversation to be having right now. When I was 12, I moved to LA to get into the industry, to pursue television and film and music full time. And as you can imagine, being a 12-year-old entering the entertainment industry, I ended up in a lot of rooms full of 50 girls who looked like me but prettier. It was a constant experience. And not only was it girls who I was up against, it was like girls where we were all auditioning and there was one role and whoever was the best was going to get it and everyone else sucks to be you. And obviously that's an oversimplification because it's about who's right for the role, blah, blah, blah. But it was a very hyper-competitive environment that I was thrust into at a really young age. And I remember having those first twinges of jealousy of seeing the Disney girls who were this or that or this or that, and I didn't, whatever, who were being more successful or whatever in any sphere, in any element of their life or career. And I got that twinge of jealousy, and it is a terrible feeling. Like, it sucks. It's why it often turns into anger or meanness, because that feeling of feeling less than somebody else sucks. And I don't know how I was able to do this as a 12-year-old, but I managed to feel that feeling and just be like, I don't ever want to feel that again. I realize that is doing me more damage than anybody, and I'm not going to survive. I'm just going to make a conscious choice to flip that switch. And whenever I see somebody that piques that twinge of jealousy, I'm just going to choose to like be so supportive of them, be their biggest fan, treat them the way that I would hope that they're looking at me, because I want them to support me. I want to support them. And I just decided not to feel jealousy, right? However, in recent years, those jealousy feelings started to come up in different contexts, less in a feeling of they're better than me, but more in a feeling of I would be sitting at home scrolling and I would see last year everybody who I've ever met was in Italy for some reason. And that deep jealousy of I'm wasting my life. I need to be doing what they're doing. Or I would see somebody using reusable containers and lowering their carbon emissions and single-use plastic usage and be like, I'm so jealous. I want to be that girl. Why am I not making a bigger effort to be more sustainable and be better for the environment or whatever? I could name 10 more things like this. And I read this really wonderful book by this therapist who I love and adore. And one of the things that she was talking about, it's called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. One of the things that she was talking about was that jealousy, if we use it and channel it properly, is actually a really incredible tool to tell us what we want. Because one of the hardest things in life is to know what you really want and what is outside influence or what is what you are being told you should want. And real jealousy, the kind that really burns inside you and makes you feel things, is a really powerful tool if we use it to make changes rather than letting it eat away at us. There have been lots of things that I felt like, oh, I'm supposed to want that, so that's what I want. And I'll see someone else doing it and I'll be like, I don't feel jealous of that person. If I really wanted this the way I think I do, I would be jealous of that person. I would be wishing that I were the person in that scenario, and I'm not. Maybe I don't want this, and I've just convinced myself I do because everyone has told me that I do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of those things as well are very like that, like the mindset of not being able to go away because it's basically fear-based because you're fear of missing out of opportunities, right?
When you said that, it reminded me of, I guess, maybe this is a jealousy that I have of some friends that opportunities will just seemingly come their way. Sometimes I feel like I'm pushing everything up like a hill and I'll still get great opportunities from it, but it's just feels like it takes a lot more effort. So true. I had a thought come to mind, Kira. If you're comfortable getting into it on a relationship side, when did you know you were at that point where you could go, okay, I can invest in this, in something I don't necessarily have full control over, being another person as well?
I got very lucky. First of all, if you had asked me at the beginning of my year as a 22-year-old, like, when do you think you'll find your person? I would have been like 37. Like, I never saw myself as a relationship person. I never thought that I would really settle down until pretty late in my life. It was not a priority. The way that my fiance and I met was just, we were forged by fire. There was a lot going on. It was a very intense time. And I think that afforded us the opportunity to like really do the important foundation laying of a relationship. And so we knew very quickly. We knew within, I don't know, I mean, he moved in after like 4 months, maybe. We knew very quickly. I think within 6 months, we had talked about like, how do you want to be proposed to? This is forever. We knew it was forever. So I'm just lucky that I happened to find a person who was like everything that I could have ever dreamed of times a billion. It's like I typed my dream human into a computer and he just got spat out. It's stupid, really. It shouldn't have happened. It's an anomaly in the universe. I don't know what I did in a past life to get so lucky, but I just did. I will say, like, when you ask, like, how did you know or when did you feel comfortable? For as much as my dad did make me a workaholic a little bit, he also instilled in me from very young, he always said the most important decision you will ever make in your entire life is who you choose as your partner. Like, how the rest of your life goes, not in you need to marry a perfect man or woman who is the best thing ever. Like, in like your partner needs to make you better, you need to make them better.
Compatibility.
And you need to raise each other up forever. And everything you do will be with this person. Every decision you make will be influenced by who you've chosen to spend all of your time with.
Exactly. I wanted to ask, what's like a question that you would recommend people ask themselves to check in?
This one can get a little heady, but maybe in what ways am I lying to myself about what I need or what I want? What is really the line between what I want and what I need? Even if it's something as simple as, I want to stay up and watch TV and eat junk food, but what do I need to make me happy tomorrow? Sometimes that is what you need, genuinely, is to just veg and eat junk food and watch TV. But sometimes I might be like, no, that's coming from a place of me that feels like I'm not creatively fulfilled, or like I'm sad or lonely, and what I should do or really need to do is to call a friend or do the hard thing, clean up my room, make myself a meal, whatever. Could also be much more serious life things of whatever, but I'm trying to make it simple. So what is the difference between what I want and what I need? Am I being honest with myself? And I guess the biggest one is, where are my bars? Which of my bars is dropping? That's actually, fuck it. That's my answer. The question that everybody listening at home should be asking yourself is, where are my bars? And what do I need to do to make sure that they're all a little bit more even keeled? Because I think that the key to life is to try to get all your bars to a nice middle ground. I think we're all our best versions of ourselves when our bars are all in the green.
And to clarify, can you run through the bars too?
They're going to be different for everyone. For me, it is time alone versus time with friends. So solo bar, social bar, productive work, career, fulfillment bar, fun bar, rest bar. Yeah, I feel like those are the main ones.
So it's like the overarching thing of personal relationships, work. That's like
totally. Yeah, you could simplify all the bars to that. Yeah. Are you getting what you need? Are you feeling rooted in your community and connected to the people around you? And are you giving yourself time to have fun, to rest, and to do work? Work, play, sleep. We're just complicated houseplants. Are you going to bed? Go to sleep, bro. Get more sleep. If you take one thing from this podcast, it's you need a consistent sleep schedule. I know you don't want to. You have to treat yourself like a 5-year-old. Be your own mommy and put yourself to sleep. It's worth it.
I love sleep. I don't get why people don't sleep. Only thing I want to ask is, to wrap us up today, what is your goals for the next 12 months when it comes to mental health and also your personal life?
Yeah, I think my goals are, this isn't something that we talked about a ton over the course of the podcast, but to become a better decision maker. I'm somebody who has a lot of stress about decisions because I feel the effects of them very heavily, and I want to be easier on myself and more willing to just make decisions and stick to them and just keep moving forward and not beat myself up when they're the wrong ones. And I want my mental health flare-ups to just be shorter and easier every time, and I think that'll just be by continuing to build more and more, or not even build, because I have healthy coping mechanisms, but solidify and use those coping mechanisms, really do the things that I know I need rather than the things that I know my brain is lying to me, telling me that I want. Just take care of myself.
So I really enjoyed that episode with Kira, and I think there were a lot of interesting points which she raised. I think for me, probably one of the most interesting ones is when she was talking about filling up your bar. And that could mean a lot of things to different people, but I've definitely noticed for me that having that alone time is really important. So making sure that I get that time to myself to think and like reflect on everything that's happening in my life is definitely a bar that I feel can always be like replenished and I can, focus in more on. So just remember that it's okay to continue to grow and have your focus in life shift depending on where you're at. And I think that's really important when it comes to going through the journey of life. Harrison, was there anything you picked up that you wanted to share from the Kira episode?
I think the other thing that was really interesting to me is the feeling like you're wasting time if you're not working, and this idea that there's more to life than just work. We have those bars and we have those cups, and we need to look after all of them and for us to be able to really just achieve our success overall, because success is different to everyone. It's not just work. So yeah, that's what I would say. And if you guys took something away today, be sure to let us know in the DMs at Really Mental Podcast and share it to a friend. And we're super excited to have an amazing guest next week. So we'll see you then.